Okay, so we're diving into a classic today.
Mm-hmm.
The Road Less Traveled.
Yeah.
I think everyone's probably heard of this book or been recommended to read it at some point.
Definitely a lot of people.
But it's one of those that can seem pretty dense when you first pick it up.
Oh, absolutely.
So what we're going to do is try to pull out the most interesting parts and really focus on how the ideas about personal growth and relationships and even spirituality can actually help you deal with like the tough stuff in life, how to kind of tackle those challenges head on.
Well, and the thing that's interesting is that Peck doesn't beat around the bush. He comes right out in the first line and says, life is difficult.
It's not a...
That's what struck me too. When I first read it, I was like, whoa, okay.
It's not meant to be pessimistic or anything.
Right.
It's really the jumping off point for everything else. It's like, look, this is the reality.
Right.
We have to accept that first. Right. And it's like, everyone's putting out those perfect Instagram lives. It's like, let's be real, life is hard.
Exactly.
So then you can actually deal with it.
Yeah. Once you accept that, then you can actually start using it to grow.
Right.
Which is what he's all about.
And so one of the ways he talks about doing this is through discipline.
Yes.
Which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
And he breaks down discipline into 4 tools.
Okay.
Delaying gratification, accepting responsibility, dedicating yourself to truth, and finding balance.
So,
those are the 4.
I'm curious about that delaying gratification.
Yeah.
Because I think about, those times when I really should be saving for something big.
Yes.
But then I see something shiny and I want to buy it.
Right, right.
Like, how does that actually work?
Well, he's not saying, never treat yourself.
Right.
It's about being conscious.
Yeah.
About choosing those actions that are actually going to help you with your long-term goals. Yeah. So maybe there's something you've been wanting to learn or a skill you want to develop. That might mean setting aside some time each day to practice.
Right.
Even if that means, saying no to some fun distractions.
Right.
Just because you're thinking about the bigger picture.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's like you're finding that balance between like enjoying the now.
Exactly.
But also working towards a future that you want.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, what about accepting responsibility? I gotta say, that one's always been a bit of a struggle for me.
It's not always easy.
No.
Peck talks about how we often resist taking full responsibility for things because it means acknowledging, our flaws and our mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody likes to do that.
No.
But he makes the point that that's actually where growth begins.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I remember a time when I made a major error in judgment at work. And my first instinct was to just try to, kind of downplay my role in it.
Yeah.
But when I finally just kind of took ownership of it and was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Right. I messed up. Here's what happened.
Yeah.
It was actually incredibly liberating.
Oh, wow.
And I learned so much from it.
Yeah.
And I became a much better leader as a result.
Wow. That's such a powerful example of how like facing those uncomfortable truths can actually lead to real change.
Transformation, yeah.
Yeah. And it reminds me of that idea of dedicating ourselves to truth.
Yes.
Which he talks about too.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about being honest with other people.
Yeah.
It's about being honest with yourself.
That's the harder part.
Yeah.
He even says, and I'm paraphrasing here,
that most of us spend our lives in self-deception to some degree.
Really?
We avoid looking too closely at our motivations and our beliefs because it can be painful.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But that kind of honesty with ourselves is essential.
Yeah.
If we actually want to grow.
Right. It's like if we're constantly kidding ourselves, then how can we ever actually change?
Exactly.
Right.
You have to start with that foundation of truth.
And that leads us into, I think, that fourth tool of discipline, which is balancing.
Balancing. Yes.
Which I feel like is so important, especially in today's world where it's just like,
it's so easy to get
everything's coming at you all the time.
Out of balance. Yeah.
And Peck uses this really great
he does
metaphor to illustrate it, right? He talks about
the tightrope walker.
Yeah.
You remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says,
let me see if I can.
I think I have it here, actually.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. The balancing act is continuous. We are forever correcting for the pull of gravity toward one side or the other.
Right.
And there is no escaping this. It is simply part of the human condition.
Oh.
It's beautiful, right?
That's so good.
So he's talking about like all the different parts of our lives,
right.
Work, relationships, personal needs.
Yeah.
Finding that equilibrium.
Right.
It's a constant process of adjustment.
It makes me wonder, how do you personally strive for that balance?
That's a good question.
Do you have any tips for our listener who might be feeling like they're constantly juggling a million things?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Right.
For me, it's really helpful to just check in with myself regularly.
Okay.
And kind of ask, okay, what feels a little out of whack right now? Is it work taking over my life? Am I neglecting, my physical health or my relationships?
Yeah.
And once I kind of identify the area that needs attention, then I can start making those small adjustments to bring things back into balance.
So it's almost like you're constantly kind of recalibrating.
Exactly. Yeah, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, that's really practical advice, I think.
Yep.
And it highlights how those tools of discipline aren't just about, willpower or denying yourself.
Oh, it's not about deprivation. It's about creating a life that feels more balanced, more fulfilling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I want to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about another really big theme in the book, which is love.
Okay.
And Peck has this pretty radical definition of love.
He does. He challenges the common notion that love is primarily a feeling.
Right.
He writes, love is as love does. Love is an act of will, namely both an intention and an action. Will also implies choice. We do not have to love, we choose to love.
I mean, that really challenged me because I think, like a lot of people, I think of love as something that just kind of happens to you.
Right.
This like overwhelming.
Yeah, the feeling.
Yeah.
Feeling of connection.
Yeah, and he acknowledges that those feelings are very powerful.
Right.
But he makes this distinction
between what he calls genuine love and something called cathexis.
Okay.
Which is more about
what is that?
Our own needs and desires than about the other person's well-being. So it's kind of
interesting.
Selfish.
Yeah. So like you might think you're in love.
Right.
But really we're just
trying to get your own needs met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he says that true love requires effort.
Okay.
Discipline.
Okay.
And a conscious choice to actually nurture the growth of the other person.
This reminds me of what you were saying earlier about taking responsibility for our own growth.
Yes.
It seems like there's a connection there.
There is a huge connection there.
Yeah.
Peck emphasizes that we can't truly love another person until we've done the work of understanding and accepting ourselves.
Right.
Otherwise, we risk projecting our own unmet needs and expectations onto them.
Right.
And that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Oh, for sure. In relationships.
So if genuine love isn't about finding someone to like complete us or fulfill all our needs, then what does it actually look like?
Well, he gives a couple of compelling examples in the book.
Okay.
He talks about a parent making sacrifices for their child's well-being, even when it's really inconvenient or challenging, or a friend offering tough love, when somebody is engaging in self-destructive behavior.
Wow.
Yeah. And he argues that those acts of service, putting another person's needs before your own, that's the truest expression of love.
It's so different from what we usually see.
The romantic ideal that's portrayed, in movies and books.
But it feels much more profound in a way.
I think so too. It's much deeper.
Yeah, and it connects to another point he makes, which is that love and growth are like intertwined.
They are. They go hand in hand.
He says when we truly love someone, we're challenged to stretch ourselves, to become more patient, more compassionate, more forgiving.
Wow.
So it's not about finding someone who's going to make us happy all the time. It's about finding someone who inspires us to become better versions of ourselves.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, that idea that it requires effort and discipline might sound kind of daunting to some people.
Yeah, to some people,
But it's really about
I think
creating a more fulfilling and authentic relationship.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
He's not saying that love is easy or effortless.
Right.
It requires conscious effort and a willingness to face those difficult emotions that inevitably come up.
For sure.
In any close relationship.
And he argues, I guess, that
he does.
The rewards outweigh the challenges.
Absolutely.
So you were talking about growth and love. I can't help but think about this connection that Peck makes between personal development and spirituality.
Yes.
And he seems to define spirituality in a way that's much broader
he does.
than traditional religion.
Yeah, he sees it as this innate human capacity for awe, wonder, a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves.
And he believes that cultivating this spiritual dimension is like essential for living a good life.
Yeah, for living a meaningful, fulfilling life.
I'm curious, what does that look like in practice, cultivating that spirituality?
Yeah, so he's not necessarily talking about meditation or prayer or specific rituals. He talks more about being open to experiences that evoke a sense of wonder and transcendence, whether that's through nature or art or music or meaningful connections with others.
So it can take many forms.
It can, yeah. And he encourages us to pay attention to those moments when we feel a sense of awe or inspiration, to notice the beauty and the mystery that surrounds us in everyday life.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not about
dogma or a set of beliefs.
It's about nurturing that. Sense of wonder.
That curiosity, that wonder.
Yeah. And he emphasizes that it's
a lifelong journey. Yeah. It's not a destination.
You know, this is making me think about a time when I was going through a really tough time in my life.
Yeah.
And I was feeling really lost and uncertain about my direction. And I remember picking up The Road Less Traveled.
Yeah.
And it was like Peck was speaking directly to me.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons this book has resonated with so many people.
Right.
It speaks to those universal human experiences of struggle and doubt and the search for meaning.
Yeah. And it offers like this message of...
And it offers hope.
Yeah.
Empowerment.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we have the inner resources to navigate even the most challenging terrain.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, like, look, life is going to be tough.
It is going to be tough.
But you're not alone.
You're not alone.
And you have what it takes.
You have the strength
to get through it.
Yeah. And he provides.
And he gives us those tools.
Right.
You know, delaying gratification.
Right.
Accepting responsibility. Dedicating ourselves to truth.
Right.
Finding balance.
Those are just...
They're not
abstract ideas.
No, they're actionable strategies
that we can
use in our daily lives. Yeah.
And I'm also struck by how Peck emphasizes the importance of grace.
Yes. Grace is
it can feel a little
elusive.
Yeah, a little mysterious.
But he seems to be saying that it's this real force.
Yeah, he describes it as this unexplainable assistance that we receive sometimes.
Right.
This sense of being guided or supported by something larger than ourselves.
Can you give an example of what that might look like?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Think about those moments of serendipity when things just seem to fall into place perfectly. Yeah. Even though you didn't plan it that way.
Or those times when you have a gut feeling about something and it turns out to be right.
Right.
Even though you can't explain.
You can't explain it logically.
Yeah.
But you just knew. Yeah. Peck would say that those are glimpses of grace at work.
Interesting.
In our lives.
So it's about being open to those subtle signs, those synchronicities that kind of guide us.
Yeah.
Even when we don't understand them.
Even when we don't fully understand them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about trusting
that
even when we feel lost or uncertain, there's this force that's working in our favor.
It's working for our highest good.
Yeah. You know, as we're talking about all this, I keep thinking about the listener.
Me too.
And how these ideas might resonate with their own personal experiences.
What stands out for you that's resonating most strongly based on your own journey and the goals you've shared with us.
For me, it's that idea that love isn't just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's an action.
Right.
It's a choice.
A choice we make. Yeah.
And it requires discipline, you know.
It does.
To actually show up for the other person, even when it's hard.
That's such a key takeaway from Peck's work. It really challenges that fairy tale idea of happily ever after.
Right.
And gives us something much more grounded and I think ultimately more fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about recognizing that love takes effort, intentionality, and a willingness to grow together.
And it ties back to those 4 tools of discipline.
Exactly.
Like if we're not willing to delay gratification to put our partner's needs ahead of our own sometimes, then how can we really love them in that way that Peck's talking about?
Right. You can't.
Yeah.
And it's not just in romantic relationships either.
Right.
Think about your family, friendships, work relationships. Even when we approach those connections with that intention to nurture and support each other's growth, it really transforms the whole dynamic.
Thinking about some of the challenges that you shared, I'm wondering if any of Peck's insights around grace resonate with you. Because he seems to be saying that even when things are really tough, there's this possibility of unexpected support or guidance.
That's a really insightful connection. I think grace is often misunderstood. It's not about some magical intervention.
It solves all our problems.
Yeah.
It's much more subtle than that.
Right.
Peck describes it as a kind of serendipity, a synchronicity that seems to guide us toward a certain path or solution, even when we don't consciously see it happening.
It reminds me of that quote from Steve Jobs. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backward.
Oh, that's perfect.
So, like, grace is those dots appearing, leading us forward.
I love it.
In ways we couldn't have anticipated.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And I think the key is being open to those dots, those seemingly random occurrences or encounters that might actually be guiding us in the right direction.
So even when we feel lost, there might be a larger force at play.
There might be.
Gently nudging us along.
Gently nudging us,
I think that's a really powerful message.
For anyone who's going through a difficult time.
It is. It's a reminder that we're not alone. There's something bigger than ourselves that's supporting us on this journey.
And remember what Peck said.
Yes.
Life is difficult.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
Right.
But he also offers a roadmap
for
how to navigate those challenges with greater awareness. Intentionality. And ultimately grace.
What I find so empowering about his message is that he doesn't give you easy answers or quick fixes. He really emphasizes that.
Personal growth is a lifelong process.
Yeah,
it takes effort. Self-reflection, a willingness to face our own limitations.
And even the very act of embracing those difficult parts of life can actually lead to...
So what leads to transformation.
Right. So it's not about avoiding challenges. It's about showing up.
It's about showing up. Yeah.
For all of it.
For all of it, exactly.
The good and the bad.
The messiness.
Using those experiences to grow.
You know, this reminds me of a quote from Peck.
Okay.
The truth is that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers.
Oh, that's so powerful.
It is.
Like he's saying that those moments when we feel like giving up.
Right, when we want to retreat back into our comfort zone.
Are actually the moments.
Those are the moments.
Where we can have the biggest breakthroughs.
That hold the greatest potential for breakthrough, And those breakthroughs might not look the way we expect.
Right.
They might come as a sudden insight, a shift in perspective. Or just a greater sense of peace or acceptance.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground.
We have.
In this deep dive into the road less traveled, talking about
those timeless ideas,
discipline, grace, and how to really embrace life's challenges.
And use them to grow.
Yeah. But ultimately,
it's up to each of us.
To
take these insights and apply them to our own unique journeys.
As you continue on your own road less traveled.
Yes.
Remember Peck's words.
Problems call forth our courage and our wisdom. Indeed, they create our courage and our wisdom. It is only because of problems that we grow mentally and spiritually. It is for this reason that wise people learn not to dread, but actually to welcome problems.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've gotten some new insights. And are inspired to keep exploring the path of personal growth, wherever it might lead you.
Absolutely.